Today we have with us Mr. Sudhir Chaturvedi. He is the Global Chief Operating Officer of NIIT Technologies Limited. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thanks, Rozelle. It's nice to meet you.
So let's start with the Q1 performance rating. So how do you rate the Q1 performance of NIIT Tech?
Well, this quarter for us has been, in terms of performance, we grew 6% year on year, and in terms of the order intake that we had this quarter was $124 million. So for me, focusing on the long-term strength of the business, the order intake is the most important metric that we track from that perspective, and that was, over the last 12 months, the previous financial year, it was $749 million, which was 103% more than what we had ever done before. So although the quarter could have been better in terms of some of our revenue and operating margin metrics, but from a long-term perspective, it was a quarter in line with what we were planning. There were some client-specific issues, but those will pass. The key thing is that we built a pipeline of revenues for the future.
What strategies of NIIT Tech differentiates you from the other players?
Yeah, I would like to talk about 5 things that I believe coming sort of fresh to the business a year ago that I believe are key differentiators for us. The first is we are a vertically focused organization. I think we are focused on 5 key verticals: travel, banking and financial services, insurance, media and manufacturing. So these 5 verticals is where we've built very deep domain knowledge, and to me it's when I meet clients and they talk about the kind of work we do with them, the work that we do in terms of operational technology. In travel, we actually run passenger systems, flight systems, crew systems, catering systems. That's true operational technology that goes beyond corporate technology, which is usually finance, HR, CRM, and those kind of things. That shows a level of depth of vertical expertise that normally most organizations would not have. The second is, we're doing a lot of work in the digital era, and we live in a digital era, and what we are seeing is most of the clients that we work with across our focus industries, that is their #1 priority. So we're partnering with them in several initiatives, and recently I was at an analyst summit in Boston, and one of our clients was speaking on our behalf, and he actually, in fact, his comment was that we have saved their company through digital transformation, because they were a traditional travel company, which had a very traditional model based on, customer service based on telephone calls and simple websites, and very not a digitally oriented business. And in 3 years' time, that we've been working with them, they've changed completely. Then in terms of the products and platforms, I think that's another differentiator. 24% of our revenues are from non-linear sources, out of which 9% is pure intellectual property revenue, which is very high in terms of compared to other India players, and we're investing very significantly in this. We're going to launch our new version of products, our insurance products, on October 1st in London. So that's another very clear differentiator for us compared to some of our competitors. The fourth, which is currently, which is what I'm here in India for, is we believe that the industry has traditionally worked in terms of the quality in the industry, service quality has been measured in CMM terms, etc. And we believe there's time to look at this afresh and think of a different way of doing things, and to learn from other industries in terms of how we uplift the service that we provide. So that in that area, we have a uplifting service initiative in the organization where we've defined 7 levels of service that we expect people to aspire to, and that's a program that's being rolled out across the entire organization. We are training each and every person. And we're going through an exercise right now to pick up some of the best ideas that we've got from that initiative. And last but not the least, we, in terms of moving on from the uplifting service part, is that the way we are focused on delivering some of our new ideas, more value to clients. What are we bringing to clients in terms of enabling them to become leaders in their field? That's the bit. For us, our vision is to be the first choice of our customers, and we would want to achieve that first choice through new ideas, more value.
So you just mentioned that you have built a good pipeline for the coming quarter. So could you throw some light on the financials of NIIT Tech?
Yeah, so we ended last year at 14% growth. In fact, if you look at our last 3 years CAGR, it's been just over 20%. So we've been growing overall at above the industry average. And in terms of client additions, we are at 200 plus clients across our focus verticals. In fact, our focus verticals together are contribute to over 90% of our revenue. So it shows that depth of focus which we've been increasing. Travel is our largest vertical. That's about 37% of our revenue. We are clear leaders in that space. We work with 50 plus airlines. We work with 20 plus airports. I could go on and on. There are lots of, but what excites me about the work that we do in travel is that we do things that we work obviously with airlines and airports, but what we do every day touches individuals who are traveling on vacation, on business, all the time. Sometimes, I sit back and think about, we manage some of these airports across the world, and when you're checking in and if you have a problem at a gate, some of the airports that we manage, what will happen is that the phone call that is made is picked up by an NIIT Technologies person on the other line. That is the kind of things that really make this, fairly exciting, sort of, this is what I meant by leadership. You're really working with clients to deliver a superior service to their customers. So overall, the business is in good shape. We have, as I said, I keep talking about the focus verticals. That's really our strategy going forward. And in each of these focus verticals, we're focused on bringing new ideas, more value.
So what is your target market?
So as I said, the 5 verticals that we are targeting, travel, insurance, banking, media, and manufacturing. In addition to this, we work with the government sector in India.
Okay. So what about the international mix? This is about the global...
Yeah, this is the global mix,
okay.
Yeah. So if you look at our global mix, we actually are, we have a good spread of revenues across the whole world. The Americas is about 40% of our revenue, EMEA is another 40%, and 20% comes out of Asia Pacific. So that's our global mix of revenues. In terms of our corporate agenda going forward, our focus is on Western markets. So we're looking to drive growth in US and Western Europe more aggressively going forward. This is in line with the recovery in those markets, as well as some of the opportunities that we see in the new areas of, where clients are looking for, like digital and platforms, which we are very strong in. And in addition to that, the other areas that we are focused on is the infrastructure management services area. So that we believe is, there are several parts of the market which are currently underserved, and we are focused on, penetrating those areas of business and those clients. So IMS is a big focus area, and this is in addition to digital, which is, already just over 5% of our revenues. I'm talking about pure digital revenues, not adding up things that many people tend to add. But going further, we've created a separate group for digital services, and that's going to drive, the growth of that business across the enterprise.
So you just mentioned some opportunities in the global market. So could you specify 1 or 2 for us?
Well, I think if you look at the global market today, I believe, I've worked in this industry for a long time, and I think, what I'm seeing happening today, post almost 5 years of global recession, is 2 very clear trends are emerging. And one is the industrialization of IT. So a lot of technology, IT work that has been done, or in terms of how services have been provided over the last 15 years, has been focused around new models of delivery, especially the global delivery model. That labor arbitrage related cost benefits have been very significant, as well as the scale benefits have been very significant. But these benefits are now seen as given. People expect these benefits to be there. It's table stakes now. It's now what else do you do? So I don't, people talk about the commoditization of IT services. I believe that's the wrong way to look at it. I don't agree with that at all. I believe in the industrialization of IT services, that we will move to an era where IT services are provided in a very highly automated, highly predictable fashion, with a combination of tools and people, and global hub and spoke model of delivery, which will always deliver predictable technology. It'll become as predictable as as electricity is, perhaps in the Western world, where you just expect it to be there and you don't expect it to fail. So that's what I call the industrialization of IT. The second part is that today business, we live in a software-defined world. And for that, innovation is the key. How do you, in a software-defined world, how do you bring software-led innovation or technology-led innovation to each and every client? Because whenever I talk to business executives, I meet CEOs and CFOs all the time, in addition to our CIO, which is our key customer, is they keep talking about how is technology going to impact their business. And they tend to be quite worried about it because there are lots of trends out there. There are new competitors emerging. There are technology-based competitors emerging, that you don't expect at all. So how do you compete in that world? And therefore, the second part is, how do you innovate in a software-defined world? And so if you think about it, you have two fairly different things to do in the same organization at the same time. You have to industrialize IT so that it's completely predictable, and you have to innovate so that you're providing, really transforming how your clients work. And you need to do this within the same organization. And I think that is, it's exciting, but it's also going to be challenging for many organizations going forward. And for us, the key to this is you have to be vertically focused. If you're trying to be everything to everybody, you will achieve neither, of these two objectives.
So how much of your growth comes from the global market?
Well, as I said, 80% of our revenues is, from outside the from the Asia Pacific market. So that's really our key growth markets. And in that, we're focused on Western markets.
Any particular country that gives you?
So the US is our largest market, and one of our key points in our corporate agenda is to drive the US growth forward.
You just mentioned around 37% of your revenues come from the travel segment.
That's right.
So what about the other segments? Do you have numbers to share?
Yes. So, BFSI is another 34%. So together, they contribute to 70% of our revenue, with media and manufacturing about 10% each. So that's, the rest is made of government and some small clients that we have. So that's, our overall mix of revenue. So just speaking a little bit about banking, financial services, and insurance, which is our second largest vertical. So in insurance, this is an industry which has been very traditional, globally actually operated in very traditional, in a very traditional way. And, it's an industry that fundamentally is about how risk is managed. And therefore, they also tend to be quite circumspect in how they operate as organizations. But they again, the expectations from their customers, whether they are people like you and me buying insurance, or corporates buying insurance, is becoming very different. So they have to deal with the digital world in two dimensions. One is the customer-facing part of their enterprise, as well as within their enterprise, because they tend, they have fairly old technology that has worked, which is tried and tested, but perhaps not as efficient as it needs to be. So they have to work at what they call digitalization of the enterprise within the enterprise, as well as what they do on the customer side. And that's a very exciting time for the insurance industry. So we are attacking that through a combination of products which handle the digitization of the enterprise, as well as a combination of digital services that look at what they do with their consumers on an ongoing basis.